Hello everyone, and welcome to another What's for Dinner on WW or Weight Watchers. In this video, I'm going to be showing you what we had for dinner this week on Weight Watchers, as well as giving you the points, calories, and macros for these meals. As always, though, check down in the description box where you will find instructions, ingredients, more nutritional information, and links to my recipe builders, where if you are a WW member, you can click on that and it'll take you directly to the recipe. And for the meals that I've done previous videos on, I'll have links to their videos where you can find all that information as well. But definitely check down in that description box to find all the info that you are going to be wanting. Let me jump in and show you what we had for dinner this week. First up is one of my old favorites, and that is this Crock-Pot chicken sausage spaghetti squash. We really love this one. I've been making it pretty much ever since we started WW years ago. And it's still a favorite, and it's one of my kind of fall or winter go-tos. This one is super easy. You're just gonna add everything to your crock pot, starting with some tomato sauce, some olive oil, and this time I'm putting a little bit of hot sauce in. I don't always, but this time I did. Definitely optional. Then a little minced garlic, and then my seasonings. I add in a little bit of thyme, oregano, and basil. I give that all a stir, and then I lay my spaghetti squash in there, and I washed that up really good. Just cut it in half, and then took all the seeds out, and I just do that with a ice cream scoop. It works really well. Now I'm adding in my chicken sausage, this stuff right here, sweet Italian style with red and green peppers. And that is pre-cooked. I just kind of nestle that in there. Put the lid on it, set it to low, and let it cook for about 4 or 5 hours, or until that spaghetti squash is done. Once the spaghetti squash is cooked, I'm gonna remove it from the crock pot, put it on a plate, and scrape all of the squash out of those. And these are definitely hot, so I'm using an oven mitt to do this. So once I've got all that scraped out, I'm gonna go ahead and just add it back into my crock pot and stir it in well. And then that is all there is to this one. And here is dinner. I've got a serving of that, which is roughly a cup, and that is 4 points for that amount. I went ahead and just add a little fresh parsley to the top of it. And then along with this, we're also having some air fryer bagels. I love these things. I make them all the time. I have a recipe video on these. I'll link that up above and down below. But very good. Those are 4 points a piece. And then I'll also have the calories and macro info on the screen that I calculated by using MyFitnessPal. But my dinner total for tonight is 8 points. Next up is 2-ingredient dough cheeseburger bubble up. I love the bubble ups. I have a lot of different ones that I do, and I now do them all with the 2-ingredient dough instead of refrigerator biscuits, just because I prefer that and it's less points. But this one is really good. My kiddo loves it, and it's very easy to make. This starts with a batch of 2-ingredient dough. I didn't show making it this time because I just showed the whole process in my last What's for Dinner video. I'll link that up above if you want to see a little more detail how I make this. But basically it's just a cup of self-rising flour, 3/4 cup of fat-free Greek yogurt, and this time, as with a lot of times, I added a little bit of granulated garlic to it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just rolling out my dough, and then I'm gonna cut it so that I've got little pieces of it, because again, this is a bubble up and you want pieces of dough, just like if you were cutting up your refrigerator biscuits, you would want little pieces of that. So that's what I'm doing here. And once I've got that all cut up, I'm gonna go ahead and just set that aside until I need it. And then over in a large frying pan, I'm gonna add in a pound of lean ground turkey. 93% lean is what I typically always use. And then I'm gonna add in some chopped bell pepper and chopped red onion. A little bit of freshly cracked black pepper. I'm then gonna cook all of that together until that turkey is browned and those veggies are softened. At that point, I'm going to add in a little bit of minced garlic, let that cook in there for about a minute or so. And then I'm going to add in a can of petite diced tomatoes, some ketchup, mustard, and some Worcestershire sauce. And then I'm going to stir that all in real well. My camera cut me off at this point, but I added in some low-fat cheese and my cut up dough there. And so now I'm gonna just mix the two of those in really well. And you want that dough to kind of start to break down just a little bit, at least get kind of warmed through. So here I've got that all mixed in. Now I'm gonna grab myself a 13 by 9 inch casserole dish. I'm gonna spray it with a little cooking spray, and then I'm gonna just pour my mixture in. Then I'm gonna just smooth it out, and I'm going to then bake it at 350 for 25 to 30 minutes. I'm then going to put a little bit more of that low-fat cheese on top and cook it an additional 5-10 minutes to get that cheese melted. And then while that's cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and pop in one of these Bird's Eye Steam Fresh carrots, broccoli, and cauliflower in the microwave. So that is done when the casserole is ready. And here it is done. And here's dinner. I've got a serving of that casserole, which is 1/6 of the total, and it is 6 points. And then I've got some of those veggies over there that I didn't put anything on besides a little bit of salt. So 0 points for those, which is gonna make dinner total for tonight 6 points. But this one is really good. Like I said, my son likes it. Everybody likes it. It's like a cheeseburger in casserole or bubble up form. So definitely a really good one. And finally this week, we tried out a new recipe for everything bagel chicken tenders. I did these in the air fryer. I have been really loving having an air fryer back. I was without one for a while, and I got a new one at Kasori. I did do a review on that if you want to check that out, but so far been loving using it, and these turned out really well in it. I will definitely link the website where I got this recipe from to give them credit. I followed it pretty closely. I think I did make a couple changes though to it, but anyway, I'll have that link down below, the original, as well as how I did these. I'm gonna start these off by making some buttermilk for them. The recipe calls for buttermilk, and I'm gonna make my own using almond milk and apple cider vinegar. Also, I wanted to mention I am doubling this recipe, so the one I'm gonna have down below and in the WW app is gonna be half of what I'm showing here. But I had 2 pounds of chicken tenders I wanted to use up, and so I'm doubling it. But to make my buttermilk, I am just pouring in 2 cups of that almond milk and 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. I'm gonna then just whisk that together and let that sit for 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And that's all there is to it when you want to make your own buttermilk. I don't typically have it on hand, so I always make my own. You can also use lemon juice instead of apple cider vinegar. Once I've let that milk sit for about 5 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and, in a large bowl, add in my chicken, and then pour my homemade buttermilk over the top of that and kind of push those down in there. You want to get these as covered as you can. And then you're gonna put these in your fridge and let them marinate for about an hour. Then in a shallow dish, you're gonna add in some breadcrumbs. I'm just using those Italian style ones, but you could use whatever type of breadcrumb that you want. I believe the recipe's calling for panko. Then you're gonna add in some flour, just all-purpose flour, and some everything bagel seasoning. Also a little freshly cracked black pepper. You could add salt if you wanted, but I didn't think that it needed it. So then you're gonna just whisk all that together until you get it well combined. Then you're gonna just take your chicken tenderloins, dip them in the breading until they're well covered, and lay them in your air fryer. You wanna make sure you're allowing enough airflow around them. So this did take me 2 different batches to do these. But once you've got those in there, you're gonna spritz them with a little bit of olive oil. And then I cooked mine at 390 on the chicken setting for about 25 minutes. It's just gonna kind of depend on your air fryer and how thick your chicken strips are. But you're looking for an internal temp of 165 on these. I will also have instructions on how to bake these if you want to do these in the oven, and that will be down in the description box. And here's what mine looked like when they were done. And here I just wanted to show you how much breading I had left once I was done with all those. Quite a bit. I would say probably about half of what I started with at least. So definitely don't need all that breading. All right, I've got all these done. There are 12 of them total. And the points for serving size of 2 is gonna be 3 points. And it's actually technically gonna be a little lower than that because again, I only used about half of that breading. So definitely would suggest not using as much breading as the recipe called for because you don't need it. But I still factored it in with everything that I showed. And so again, 3 points for 2 of these. Along with it, we're gonna have some of this mustard dip. I just did a video, or I just recorded this, and that will be up probably before this video. So I'll go ahead and link that recipe video if you want to see how I make this honey mustard dip. Really good. Just a nice lightened version of a honey mustard dip. So we're going to have that with these. And the honey mustard dip is a point per tablespoon. And then we're also going to have some veggies as a side for this. We'll see if my hubby will give one of these a try and let us know how they taste. They smell good. Go ahead.
Which one?
Whichever one you want.
Oh, that was cute.
Mm-hmm.
I just reached for you.
You did.
Okay.
I just got that. I was focused on what was on the camera. Oh, I got that zoomed in big time on you. I'm gonna break one of those open so we can see. I don't know if that's picking
It's
up.
moist.
It's
Delicious.
not really picking up. It's fogging up the camera. Let me zoom in on that. Nice and moist. Yeah, this is, I don't know what time of cooking chicken in the kasori, and it turns out really well.
Yeah, the dip is wonderful.
Yeah, I love that dip. It's so good. If you like honey mustard dip anyway, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
The dip is wonderful. The chicken strip's not as wonderful.
The chicken itself is like cooked to perfection. There's a real light crunch, which is nice. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting much
Seasoning
off of the breading.
Well, the recipe called for salt and pepper to taste, and you know how we do with the salt. I don't typically like to add it, and it had the everything bagel seasoning, so I thought that would be enough. But you think maybe a little salt is necessary in these? Mm-hmm. Maybe like a half teaspoon or something. So I'll adjust that on my recipe. I did add pepper.
Yeah, and I'm getting that now.
The pepper?
Yeah.
Can you taste the everything bagel seasoning in there?
Yeah, so if you don't put the dip on there, you can taste the breading a lot better.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's very subdued though.
But I love that dip.
Like you said, something the next time around to make it pop.
Just add a little touch of salt. Okay, good to know. All right, well, that was... Oh, there wasn't
Oh, don't get me wrong, they're really good.
They're good?
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't sounding super enthusiastic over there, so I was wondering.
Well, I had two.
Okay. All right. Well, again, that was air fryer. Everything but the bagel, or everything bagel seasoning, chicken tenders. Loving that air fryer, by the way. I will have a review on this up. It might be before this video, actually. The kasori here. Been loving that thing. Loved our other one, too. Just love air fryers in general. And my husband. All right, guys. I think that was it. So we will see you in the next video.